Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to make some last-minute Thanksgiving cards. I like to do postcards for Thanksgiving to tell my friends and family how much I love them and how grateful I am for them. I hope you'll stay tuned. So the first thing I want to show you is how I'm going to make a postcard. And a normal postcard is 4 inches by 6 inches. I started thinking about how you could kind of waste a lot of paper by doing that, because you're not going to get a lot out of one sheet of regular cardstock, which is 8.5 by 11. So I started playing around, and here's what I decided. If I just cut the paper in half at 4.25 inches on the 8.5 inch side, so if I cut it in half, so it's 4.25 inches, then I have 2 pieces that are 4.25. Now that's a little bit bigger than a postcard, but since I only have 11 inches on this side, I can only make it 5.5 inches wide. So you take your half sheet of paper, which is 11 inches, and you're going to cut it to 5.5 inches wide. So you're ending up with a piece of, well, a postcard that's going to be 4.25 inches tall by 5.5 inches across. So it normally would be 4 by 6, so it's a little bit taller and a little bit more narrow. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let me continue cutting these out because I want to make a bunch of postcards, and I'll be right back. So the next thing I want to talk about is my Simon Says Stamped card kit of the month. I joined Simon Says Stamp because I wanted to see what their monthly kits were like, and I have contacted a few other companies to try and get their monthly stamp kits, card kits, whatever they call them, so that we could compare them and see value to value. So I'm going to show you this kit, but keeping in mind it's already sold out, I'm sure, and this is just for demonstration purposes. So when you get these kits, they're normally wrapped in a nice packaging like this in a box. So it was in this envelope, and I didn't want you to have to wait through that to see the rest of it. Then you get a really nice stamp set, and this one is called Thanks and Leaves, Simon Says Stamp SSS 101894, and I'm going to be using the leaves and the sentiments on my cards, my postcards. That's why I really wanted that set, because I like to make thank you cards, well, thankful cards, I guess we'll call them, at this time of year instead of Christmas cards. I don't send as many Christmas cards as I do Thanksgiving cards, and they send you in the kit. They also send you some ideas, and I think that's nice. They send you some cardstock. They sent, let's see, you've got a kind of a off-white, a green, and an orange piece of their cardstock. There's the 3. Then they give you some tags, a couple of envelopes, 3 envelopes, and some Tim Holtz butterflies. There are 6 of these. They're called adornments. I don't know what I was thinking that was called. Adornments, and they're TH93689. And then they give you the Tim Holtz small talk, snarky, and pertinent type sayings. And so I have never played with this before. One of my friends said I'll love it, but I haven't, I haven't looked through them. So that's one of those things I haven't decided if I'm gonna love it or not, but we'll wait and see. And then lastly, I'm pretty sure this is the last thing that's in the set, and that is a little packet of sequins. So that's what we got in the set. I'm going to put this stuff aside, and I am going to be talking about this set again when we do a comparison between the different card kits, because I wanted to do that and see if one is, you get more bang for your buck. I just kind of like to know how we're faring with all of these different accounts. So let me open this up, and we'll be right back, because I don't want you to have to hear me crinkle all that paper. So I went through and stamped a bunch of these in an assembly line fashion. This is the fastest way to do it. So what I did was I stamped my sentiment on all of them. Now, the first few I have in the season of Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for you, family is everything. Those ones are going to go to my family. Then after that, then I just went with in the season of Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for you, and I did that on almost all of the rest of them. This one is the only one I have left, and I just wanted to quickly show you what I did. I have my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I've already swiped across them with my embossing pouch to make sure that I didn't have any stray powders. And then I'm using, this is from Sparkle and Sprinkle, and this is Midnight Madness, and it's a really pretty, it's got a glitter in it. Really, it's a black, but with a really neat glitter in it. And I think that was good enough. The Onyx Black ink is a pigment-based ink, so that means it stays wet a lot longer. So it gives you the time to do this, where you don't have to immediately go from one to the other. And what I did was I just left the extra embossing powder on the one before it, and then I kind of just went like this. And that way, I didn't have to keep putting it back in the bottle, back in the bottle, back in the bottle. You know what I mean? I could have done it onto a piece of paper like this, but it was so much easier to just leave it on the card before it. I didn't put a ton of embossing powder on it. I didn't dump the whole bottle on like I normally do. So I didn't have as big a mess, and I used every one of my cards I did with just one round of putting the embossing powder on the first one. Did that make sense? I hope it did. Because basically all I'm trying to say is I didn't put the embossing powder anywhere else. And I'm just going to use my little powder brush to get the excess stuff powder. Not really powder, it's the glitter that's bugging me. I just want to get it off. Then, after I shook them off, or like tapped them over my garbage can a little bit, then all I have to do is heat set them. So we're just going to heat set the last couple. This embossing powder is hard to tell when it's changed, and if you worry about burning your paper or doing it too long, you can go underneath like this. It'll also help you to flatten out your cardstock. Just have these last couple. I'm very, very glittery. I don't know if you can see my forearms, but my sleeves are covered in glitter because I'm one glittery girl. Okay, so that's all of our glittering. Now embossing. I'm just going to make things up until you guys stop me. And clearly, since you're out there and not here, you won't be able to stop me. So my next step is you're going to want to set up how you want your surround, I'll call it. So what I started doing was experimenting a little bit, and the first thing I found out was this embossing powder that has the glitter in it that I thought was a smart idea to stamp all my sentiments and then do everything on top of it. That didn't work. For some reason, I don't know if it's the glitter that makes it not resist, but usually if you have embossing powder, you can kind of, once it's heat set, you can wipe it back off. But what I found was, in this case, nope, not that one. Yeah, in this one, I only had a little bit of the glitter that even stayed behind. So I don't know if I didn't heat set it enough or what, but that was the problem. Then in this one, I had trouble with having the embossed image show up at all, so I went back over it with an embossing pen, and then that didn't go well, so that one was kind of a fail. Then this one I'm happy with, and it's the last one I did, and so I'm going to show you how I did this, and hopefully now I've got a pattern or a system I can go and make it work, but I don't know at this point. So what I'm going to start with in the middle is I'm going to use a pigment ink from Colorbox called Frost White. You can use any white pigment ink that you want to use. And all I did was gently, keep in mind, gently, I just went over the center in a circle like that. You got it? I'm making my circle bigger each time. Then I'm going to let that one set aside. It's from Wendy Vicky. It's called Make art. It's a blendable dye ink, and it's called Sunflower. We're going to use that one for around the outer edge. So I've got a different blending tool for that, and I'm just going to kind of circular light strokes. And in the background I have, this paper is a kid's finger painting paper that kids would use. So that's what I'm using for my, to kind of keep things in some kind of semblance of cleanliness, you know me. Okay, so then I got that half done. I'm going to turn around because I'm better, since I'm left-handed, I'm better at kind of going in the opposite direction. What I've learned about blending is the lighter you push on this, the better you're going to do with getting marks. So if you're worried about making those little lines, my suggestion is, I think you're pushing too hard, because that's what I was doing wrong for all these years when I keep having the problem. I'm going to do a little bit more because I would like it to be darker up here. Again, I'm not pushing hard. Used to be when I blended, I would be exhausted by the time I was done, and the reason was I was pushing too hard, I think. So now I'm just going to kind of do this, where I'm going to kind of smear around. Because remember that pigment ink that's in the center, that is going to blend and blur as we go. Okay, then, I learned so many things doing this, let me tell you, of the things that I could possibly do wrong. Then I'm going to take a little towel, and hopefully this will allow me to wipe off my sentiment. I know what you're thinking. How many of these did she do before she got that right? Let's just say there were so many I don't even want to talk about it. But that's how I got my background to look good and show up. It wasn't the blending at all. It was just having my center show up. Then what I did is I took my Misty. You wait till you see what a mess this is. You're going to laugh at this mess. It's horrible. Okay, here's what I did. I put all my stamps in, and I don't know if you can see there's an outline on my foam. I don't even know what that's from, but it's because I've been doing this for so many hours now. I'm going to put this at the 1-inch mark. I did that on purpose so that I could have some stamps high and low, and they would be perfectly lined up. You see that? Hold on, I got to move that a little bit. There we go. See how it's perfectly lined up in there? I know you're shocked. I was shocked after the first 17,000 times I did this wrong. And I'm left-handed, so I'm going to do it from the left. I've had a few people ask me that. Why do you do this from the left? The answer is I'm left-handed. You don't know. These things. Good questions, though. Because a lot of people do theirs from the top and from the right side, and I do mine from the left because I'm left-handed. And I know I'm inking this with my right hand, which is another quandary. Why am I doing that with my right hand if I'm left-handed? I don't know. These things are a mystery to me. I don't know. That was Stampin' Up! Always Artichoke. That's a discontinued color from Stampin' Up! And I absolutely loved it. I had to order one before they discontinued it because my old Stampin' Up! Always Artichoke pad was in dire shape. We'll just call it, I have it right here. I'll show it to you. You'll laugh at this, maybe. Maybe not. Okay, here it is. You maybe can't see this. Maybe you can. Can you see how the center of this has a divot in it? Right there. It's like right through the center. Hey, that makes inking not that easy. Let me just tell you. So, there it is. That's my Always Artichoke ink pad that doesn't want to stamp in the middle. Kind of important part of your stamp that you need to work. Okay. That's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to ink it one more time, though, just to get my greens a little darker. And then, after I do that, I'm going to dry it. Because, remember that center section is with a pigment ink, and pigment inks don't want to dry on their own. Well, they do dry on their own, but it's an overnight gig, and I don't have overnight to show you this. It's a one-and-done kind of thing, and I'd really like to get a couple thousand of these done tonight. I don't know how many. I'd like to get a few done. Let's just say a few. Okay. I used my, I don't know if you saw that, my Sandy Parker elbow technique. For those of you who have any problems with your arms or hands and you can't push on your Misty door, I used to do it with my feet, and I always felt guilty about that because I was always afraid I was going to break my Misty or somebody else would break theirs because they went with my system. I got to get one. There's one little piece here that isn't it. That's better. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to dry it. And then I'll show you what to do from there. Oh, I've got system upon system to get this bad boy done. Okay, remember I used always artichoke. That's important to note because now I'm going to use some peg stamps because I love peg stamps and because I needed to fill in a little bit around the edges. Back to my scrap paper. I know I kind of sound like I'm on some kind of speed tonight, but actually I'm just so excited I finally got this to work that I can't stand myself. This is an oval leaf. It's called the large oval leaf. Put that right there, and one right there, and one off the edge, and one off the edge over here, and one right there. Okay, then I'm going to use this one it's from the Summer Leaves set, and I couldn't find the name of it, but that's what it looks like. And I'm just putting these helter-skelter, again, just so I have some off the paper, you know, some here and there. I'm going to turn them a little bit. And then I have this one that's called an almost, okay, I don't know, that could be a sandy term. An almost beach leaf? I don't know. It scares me that I make these things up. I hope that is really the name of it. I'm so sorry if it's not. Almost beach leaf. So that's what I'm calling it. Maybe that's the name of it? I don't know. I think it is. I don't know. Put one more right in there. Now, I did all my coloring of all my leaves the same color. That was important to me because from this point on, I'm going to be changing things up with coloring. And I'm going to heat it one more time because I want to make sure those are dry before I go crazy with them. So I'm not really touching that the center part of this. Okay, here's the other problem I had. I don't know why this is, because this is 110-pound cardstock, but when I stamped it with that green ink, it comes through sometimes. So the other thing I've had to do is apply a second postcard to the back so that they're thick enough to send. So that's another thing I had go wrong. So I'll probably have to add another back to this one. So let me just show you how I'm going to finish this. I don't want that paper there because I'm afraid I'll get the ink off of it. Next step, I'm going to get my little plastic piece. This is a lid from a peg stamp container. I'm going to put a little piece of paper under it just so you can see what I'm doing in there. It's better if you can see it, right? Good that you want to see things. I'm going to use these are water-based markers, not alcohol ink, water-based. And I'm going to scribble little sections. This is called Real Red. These are Stampin' Up, and they match their regular inks. This is Pumpkin Pie. Who doesn't love pumpkin pie? And this one is some color yellow that I can't find upside down. Come on, Sandy, where is it? Summer Sun. Oops, wrong end. Ugh. Okay, so those are those colors. And then I have one more color that I want to just throw in here, and this is chocolate chip. That's just in case I need it. I don't know if I will or not. Then you can use a bunch of tools to do this. You could use a wet paintbrush, which would be really easy to do. Or you can use this. This is what's called a blending brush, blending marker, sorry. This one's from Stampin' Up, but you can get them from, I have one that I bought on Amazon. I can't remember the name of it because it's just, my head is just in a blur. I'll put it in the notes below. But basically it's a marker that's just got a nice tip that doesn't have anything in there but like glycerin and water. So then you can pick up an ink with it and color with it. So I'm going to pick up some of the red and I'm just going to kind of color into this one a little bit like that. Now I had the same problem with this leaf before. I don't know what keeps happening with that. I don't know if it's too close to this pigment ink, but it seems like it just kind of fades off the paper. So what I'm going to do, and I know this sounds scary to all of you, but I'm going to stamp it again over the existing stamp. And all I did the last time is I can see where the top of the leaf is. And I can see where the top of the leaf is on my paper, and I'm just going to hopefully stamp over it in the same spot. And if it's not exactly perfect, that's okay, because all I'm going to do then, I'm trying to find my little scribbly thing, all I'm going to do is just kind of go back in and I'm just going to kind of take off the extra. And that's that. So that's what this one looks like, and what I'm going to do is I'll come back after I've done a few more and I'll show you the rest of the ones I've made so that you can kind of see like like how many I've done and how they turned out. I don't know if I'm going to go with all the same colors, but I like the idea of having more fall colors and trying this out with different looks. So that's this one. So I'll be back. I have colored 9 of them. I'll show you the ones I've colored. And what I found was I'm much better with colored pencils. They don't bleed through to the back, and I was able to get a pretty good variety of colors. There's the back, so I didn't bleed through on that one. Here's this one, it has the family on this one. And there's another one with family on it in here somewhere. They're all a little bit different, but they're all, there's one with family, but they're all very colorful, and I like the ones that have, this one's a little bit darker. I'm not sure about this one. It's darker than the rest because the background's different than the rest. The rest I all did with the white in the center, and then the, I think it's called Sunshine. I used Frost White and Sunflower from Wendy Becky in her Make Art Blendable Inks. And then I thought, as far as colored pencils go, I am a huge fan of Prismacolors. If you didn't know that already, that's my secret. Well, it's not really secret, but that's my story. I love them. I think they are really, really a fine colored pencil, and I like doing things like this where you take a brown one and color this in so that it's darker, and then I'll add a little bit more green to it, but I want the brown to kind of make it stand out. Then what I did with the rest of them is I kind of started with one color. In this case I'm starting with a red, and this is upside down Scarlet Lake. Okay, then I'm going to go in with, this is upside down Spanish Orange and Canary Yellow. Because they're colored pencils, you should be able to erase any places where you go out of the lines, and you know me, I'm out of the lines half the time. Okay, so next we're going to do a little bit of, this is Spectrum Noir. It's like a wink of Stella. And my goal here is just to do some of the bigger leaves. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up putting a little bit of Spectrum Noir, Wink of Stella type product on all of them, and I'll be back. So for my last one, I'm going to use glossy accents on it, and my bottle, the top got clogged, stuck up in there, so I had to recant it into this bottle. Hopefully it will work. So I decided that the diamond glaze, that's what I'm using now. It was, I think, glossy accents, and now it's diamond glaze. I'm using that on all of the leaves, and so I thought I would kind of walk through it real fast with you, and I'd have Rich speed it up. But I'm going to show you kind of my system of how I do this, in case you've wondered the easiest way to do it when you're doing an ornate, like thinner images. Here's how I do it. I put a glob in the center of the leaf, or you know, the thickest part basically of whatever I'm working on, and then I just smooth it to the edges while it's still really wet, because if you let this get a little bit set up, you're not going to be able to move it around. So you want to do it as quickly as possible so that you can kind of get your images going. And if you have a lot left over on your tool, just wipe it onto another piece like that. I'm just going to keep turning it and moving so that I have a different leaf to play with. And this one I got too much on, so I'll show you how I work that out in a second. I did put Wink of Stella on this. I don't know if you can see the glitter underneath, and I don't know if the glitter will show in the end. Okay, here's when I'm taking it off. Just trying to wipe it off the edge, and then I use my fingernail and I just kind of take the rest off if I can. And if it doesn't look like I have enough of this on, then I wait until I've spread this first layer out, and then I put more on. I'll let them dry, we'll come back and we'll see how they turn out. I think the only thing I did after I showed you that was going around the outside of all of them with the green ink. That was Arranger Archival ink, because I was a little bit worried that since these are going in the mail as postcards, that maybe I should be sealing them. So with that being said, I am wondering if I should go to one of the ones that is already a little scary and see if I spray it. I'm trying to find the, there it is, this one. See if I spray it with something, a sealant, if that will ruin it or not. I could go over it with Mod Podge if I wanted to, but I don't think I'm going to. There are two options. You can go with something like this, a workable fixative, that it protects your things, prevents smudging and wrinkling, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I think the other option would be some cheap hairspray. Hold on, I'll grab that. I'm getting out the big guns. That would be the Aqua Net. And that is a very inexpensive hairspray that Lindsay the Frugal Crafter always recommends. It's all weather in case, in case my postcard gets its hair wet. I'm going to spray this on off camera over my garbage can because I don't want hairspray all over my room. Then I'm going to do one more that's a little iffy. You know, you have a couple that you do that aren't as good as the rest, and you think to yourself, well, maybe that's the one I'll use for a project where I want to try it out. I think I'm going to try this one with the fixative. Woo! Okay, I don't know if any of you have ever worked anywhere near where they are working in a body shop of a garage where they are spray painting cars. That smells like that to me. My father worked in a Ford dealership for his whole career, and he was in the parts department, but this smell is very reminiscent of the place where they do the car painting. If I had my choice, I'm going to look at them both. I think they both do an equally fine job of sealing it, but if I had my choice, and of course I do because it's my project, I would go for the Aqua Net because after all, it is all weather and it's got a fresh scent. You can't beat that. So let me spray the rest of my lovely cards, and I'll be back in just a second to wrap it up. So here they are, all finished. And I thought they turned out well for what I was doing. The Simon Says stamp kit was a lot of fun to play with. I am going to be doing another video where I kind of recap the monthly kits and kind of give you a breakdown of how I felt they were financially, and like, were they a good deal, were they not a good deal, did you get enough bang for your buck, did you get enough embellishments, etc. I just wanted to make sure you really understand what you're getting when you get one of those monthly card kits. So I hope you enjoyed this video, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please tell your friends about me on social media because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.